Ink smushing is a fun, rewarding, and addictive technique. In this video, I'm going to show you how to take it up a notch by smushing with contrasting colors. Every technique video is narrated live while I'm doing the technique, so you're getting a real-time view of how the whole process works. Pull out the supplies I'm using and create right along with me, pausing as you need. Before we get started, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I appreciate it. Ink smushing is a pretty straightforward technique, but in this video we're going to do some contrasting colors, which means colors that are across from each other on the color wheel. I'm also going to show you how to use different watercoloring mediums. I've got a watercolor pencil, I have a watercolor pan, and I also have some liquid watercolors. So we're going to use all three of those to create a smushed look. So we'll start with the easiest, which is actually the watercolor liquid. So whether it's in pen form or it's in liquid form, smushing with this is pretty easy. I've got a mat down here. This is just a silicone mat. You can use a glass mat, you can use a plastic mat, whatever you want. I'm just going to put some color down here, and I'm going to spray it with a spray bottle here. And then I'm going to take my watercolor card and I'm going to just smush it in. So we all know how to do that, right? That looks great. It's a pretty nice smush, but if I want to add in some contrasting colors like this green, that's going to be maybe a little bit difficult. Even adding in the yellow could result in something that we don't quite expect. So the first step is to actually dry this with a heat gun. So that way when we smush our next color in there, we can reduce the amount of bleeding into each other that we would get if it was still wet. All right, so now that my panel is dry, I can move on to my next color. So I'm going to wipe off my working space here. And I have my pan that I added a little bit of water to so I could get this softened up. And so when you're working with pans, of course, you're going to take a brush and get that color out onto your work surface here. And again, it's just going to kind of bubble up on the silicone mat or the glass mat or the plastic. You can spray it with a little bit of water if you want to add a little more motion. And what I'm going to try to do is get it down into this area here. I don't want to go smack dab over the whole thing. I want to be able to see some pure purple, and then I'm going to want to be able to see some pure green as well. So I'm going to try to work in this corner here. And a quick smush will help me to start getting what I'm looking for. Now, as you can see, there is going to be some blending that is going to happen. When you mix your contrasting colors together, you're going to get kind of a shade of brown, sometimes a shade of gray. It just kind of depends on the colors themselves. But that's okay because you are getting a blend, but it's not all completely muddy. I could even go a little bit more in here. And add in a little bit more of a smush. So this is more of a solid smush versus having a little bit of texture to it. But I can add a little more to the bottom if I want and get that color blended together. So right now I have pure contrasting colors. I have green and purple. They're opposite each other on the color wheel, but I'm getting some color blending in the center here, and it's not offensive. It looks really nice together. So again, I'll go ahead and dry this, and then we can add in another color or two. All right, so here's what I've got so far with it dry, and it really is quite beautiful. The green and the purple are so vibrant, and then there's this beautiful blend in between that has not taken over. It's not completely brown. It's not gross. It looks really, really great. So again, I'm going to go ahead and wipe up my work surface. And this time I'm going to work with these watercolor pencils. So I have a turquoise color here, and I also have an orange cream. So the orange and the green aren't necessarily going to go together, and neither is the orange and purple. So when I'm working with my pencils and I want to do ink smushing, I want to get a little bit of water down on my mat, and then I also want to spray the pencil so that it turns into a bit of like a creamy material. All right, so I'll clean off my brush. And then if I put a little water in here, you can see that I'm going to get that orange that I can do some smushing on. So I can do maybe a little bit down here in the corner. And see, again, I'm going to get maybe a little bit of a blend, but not a huge one, because the green actually has quite a bit of staining properties to it. It's not going to move so much. But I can get that orange on top of it. And it actually is kind of reminiscent of the color that was happening in between here. So it kind of looks like it was just kind of continuing on. And then maybe I want to put a little bit up on the top here as well. So the orange and the purple together are going to create a funky shade of red. And that's going to be really, really gorgeous. And I've got this little bit of a wisp of orange up here. So kind of bringing that all together. All right, so we can do the same thing with the aqua colored or turquoise colored pencil. If you don't want to spray it, you can always just dip the pencil in the water. And again, just get some of that color on your paper here, or on your mat, and spray it. And you're going to want to lift it just a little bit with your brush so that it mixes with the water. And if it's not dark enough, you can, of course, add more. Now, of course, orange and blue are contrasting colors. So getting those to pair off each other will be a little bit of a feat, or it can be a little bit of a feat. So I have a little bit of a wet spot here. I'm just going to go ahead and let that dry. I'm going to get some turquoise down here. It's going to go into the orange and the green. All right, so I've got really funky colors going on here. Again, they are kind of blending together a little bit, but not a whole lot. You can see some of the green in between there. And then the same thing, the orange, the blue has gone over the orange. It's going to create a dark color, but it's not going to look offensive. It's not going to be a whole lot here. Okay, so now I've got this space up here at the top that I can also get a little bit of turquoise on. So I'll spray that a little bit again. And actually, let me add more color here. I want to move this around a little bit so I have empty spaces. All right, and I can get a little bit of the orange on there, and of course I can go, the blue and the purple are going to look excellent together. So you can see a little bit of an overlap there. That's okay. And then of course going into the purple, it's going to create beautiful coloring. So now I have all sorts of different colors going on. It's not overpowering. I don't have all sorts of crazy browns and funky shades created because I've dried everything in between and I've gotten a really good look here. So there you go. You can create an amazing funky ink smushed background with complementary colors just by adding a few drying steps in between and being conscious of where you're placing your color as you go. I hope you enjoyed this technique and you add it into your toolbox sometime soon. When you give it a try, share it out on Instagram and tag me at Nicole Watt Creates. I always love to see what your creative mind is thinking. Thank you so much for spending a little time with me today. And until next time, happy crafting.